Hare Krishna. Let us understand Bhagavad Gita as it is, written by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Bhagavad Gita has 18 chapters. So let us understand these chapters section by section. Before we begin the discussion, let us offer our prayers to our spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada and Supreme Lord Shri Krishna. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Today we'll be understanding the fourth section of chapter 8 of Bhagavad Gita. Fourth section is from Shloka number 23 to Shloka number 28. This section is entitled The Passage of the Soul at Different Times. So let us understand this section. Lord Krishna says, Yatra kale tvanavrittim avrittim chaiva yoginaha prayatayanti tam kalam vakshyami bharatarshabha. O best of the Bharatas, I shall now explain to you the different times at which passing away from this world one does or does not come back. So Krishna is now describing different times at which the soul passes, and according to the time the soul passes, either the soul reaches the spiritual world or returns to the material world. So Krishna will be describing these things. This is applicable for those who practice other yoga systems like Karma Yoga, Jnana Yoga, Dhyana Yoga. For those who are devotees of Krishna, they don't have to worry about what time they leave the body, because they are completely surrendered to Krishna, and Krishna personally takes care of everything for the devotee while living in this material world. And at the time of death, Lord Krishna takes the devotee back to the spiritual world. So a devotee doesn't have to worry about the time he leaves his material body. So let us see what Krishna describes about this aspect. So Krishna says, Agnir Jyotiraha Shuklaha Shanmasa Uttarayanam Tatra Prayata Gachanti Brahma Vido Janaha. Those who know the Supreme Brahman pass away from the world during the influence of the fiery god in the light at an auspicious moment during the fortnight of the moon and the 6 months when the sun travels the north. So this is the auspicious time Krishna is describing, when the soul lives at this particular time, during the light, during the auspicious Uttarayana, when the sun travels towards the north, during the daytime, and during the fortnight of the moon, then the soul reaches to the spiritual world. So there are many yogis who wait for such auspicious moment. They select the time and place and they leave the body so that they never return to this material world. And even accidentally, if someone leaves the body at this particular auspicious moment, he returns to the spiritual world, because there are presiding deities present at these particular planets. They make arrangement for the passage of the soul. And further Krishna describes, Dhumo Ratristatha Krishnaha Shanmasa Dakshinayanam Tatra Chandramasam Jyotir Yogi Prapya Nivartate. The mystic who passes away from this world during the smoke, the night, the moonlit fortnight, or in the 6 months when the sun passes to the south, or who reaches the moon planet again comes back. So those who pass away from this world during night, during Dakshinayana, when the sun travels towards the south, and during the smoke, they return to this material world. They don't achieve the spiritual world. And those who reach the moon planet, which is also called heavenly planet, they live there for a long duration of time, around 10,000 years, and enjoy heavenly pleasures, and then they again return to earthly planets. So further Krishna says, Shukla Krishna gati hyete jagata shashvate mate ekaya yatya navrittim anyaya vartate punaha. According to the Vedas, there are two ways of passing from the world, one in light and one in darkness. When one passes in light, he does not come back. But when one passes in darkness, he returns. Then Krishna says, Naite sriti parthajanan yogi muhyati kaschana tasmat sarveshu kaleshu yoga yukto bhavarjuna. The devotees who know these two paths, O Arjuna, are never bewildered. Therefore, be always fixed in devotion. So, even though this is the material law about those who pass during the day, they get liberated. Those who pass during night, they return to this material world. These are the laws applicable to everyone. But for the devotees who are engaged in loving devotional service to Krishna, this law is not applicable. The Lord personally takes charge of the devotees' comforts while living in this world, and He makes arrangements for the devotees to return back to the spiritual abode at the time of His death. So the devotees are not worried about at what time they are going to quit the material body. They are completely absorbed in loving devotional service of the Supreme Lord. So they are not at all bewildered. So further Krishna says, Vedeshu yagneshu tapassu chaiva daneshu yat punya phalam pradishtam atyeti tat sarvam idam viditva yogi param sthanam upaiti chadyam. A person who accepts the path of devotional service is not bereft of the results derived from studying the Vedas, performing austere sacrifices, giving charity, or pursuing philosophical and fruitive activities. At the end, he reaches the supreme abode. Generally, our Vedic culture, it teaches human beings to elevate spiritually. For this, a child is recommended to go and live in the Gurukula, in the place of a spiritual master, and serve the spiritual master menially as a servant, and he has to go and beg alms and then give it to the spiritual master. And if the spiritual master, after cooking food, if he forgets to call the disciple, then the disciple has to fast. In this way, as a menial servant under the complete guidance and protection of his spiritual master, one has to learn about spiritual science from the age of 5 to 25 years. And after that, he is allowed to enter into the householder life, and there also he has to perform sacrifices for further spiritual elevation for next 25 years. And then he has to take vanaprastha and then practice severe austerities of staying alone in the forest, wearing tree bark and performing various austerities. In this way, one has to practice tapasya, and then he reaches the perfectional stage of sannyasa, where he further continues practicing austerities. And when he becomes a perfected human being, then he gets liberated. So this is the general process recommended in the Vedas. But a devotee of Krishna, he achieves the supreme spiritual abode without undergoing this gradual elevation method or the pravritti marga. A devotee of the Lord happily practices Krishna bhakti. He happily practices serving Krishna while living in this material world without undergoing much of severe austerities which is recommended in other yoga systems, and bhakti is very easily performed, very happily performed, and it is joyfully performed, and at the time of death he enters into the spiritual abode of Krishna. So he is not bereft of the results derived by practicing jnana yoga, hatha yoga or karma yoga. A devotee achieves the results of all other yoga systems, and he achieves the supreme abode of Krishna, where he enjoys with the Supreme Lord in loving devotional service. Therefore, we all have to take up to devotional service of Supreme Lord Krishna under the care and guidance of an expert spiritual master. In this way, we can make our lives perfect. So this is the sum and substance of the 7th and the 8th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. So next we will be understanding the 9th chapter of Bhagavad Gita. Hare Krishna.